How I develop my design aesthetic, I think, for me, I'm somebody when recently said that I'm a sentimental person, and I think that's probably true. I I believe in our stories and our roots and where we come from and the things that influenced us. So, for me, those and in the writing of this book, I really thought a lot about this. Like, where did these ideas come from? Where did this aesthetic come from? And for me, it comes from where I was born, and I was born in Stoneham, Massachusetts, to be exact, but was raised in Brookline, Massachusetts, until I was 13, and then my family moved to Burlington, Vermont. um, and those two places were deeply influential. And um, Brookline is a really beautiful suburb of Boston, and we were specifically in this place called Cottage Farm, which was the summer houses of in the turn of the century for Beacon Hill. And it was a real mashup of architectural styles. There'll be a Victorian next to a Mediterranean, and then in the area that I lived in, but my grandparents lived in a newer kind of development part of Brookline. They were second generation Jewish immigrants, and they lived in like a 1950s ranch that they were the first owners of. And it was very, the Brady's, the Jets, it was like a fully, I write in my book about, there was like a full felt room that was all gray felt, and all the furniture was gray felt, and that felt really sort of modern. So, and that is where I think this kind of dichotomy between the new and the old, the future and the past, I think is really the DNA of what I do. I always begin at, what is the need? What is the function? That's sort of part of my training as an industrial designer, was who is the user, and what is this? If we're designing a spoon, is it for somebody who doesn't have any fingers, and we have to figure out a solution, and I think of rooms in the same way, and I always want to know how someone's going to use something before I start designing it. And then secondly is the architecture, whether it exists or whether I have to create it. If it's a house that already exists and we're working within that, I'm waiting for the walls to tell me what they want in the room. I think it's a real challenge, the conversations between furniture. I always say this, that there needs to be a dialogue, and if you're putting a Corbusier chair next to like a Louis Philippe daybed, like you need for me, it's about proportion, that you should look at the seat heights, to make sure that everything goes, the seat backs, look at the dimensions and the proportions, because oftentimes that will lead to a conversation that works. I find that, I'm very afraid of this word eclectic that is oftentimes pegged to me, because I feel like eclecticism sort of connotes some sort of randomness. And and I love like a random magpie, English cottage, but you can't design that. So like I can't really do, I can't really do random. And I also am like worried about what it's doing to like the regular Joe who's just trying to furnish their house. I'm like, don't, like, that's very advanced. It's really difficult to make that all like work and look good together. So, if you need to just like make it all one color, like that's actually not a negative thing. Like, lean into that. To transform older pieces that you've inherited or have come into your life, and you have some sentimental attachment, or maybe your husband does, your wife, and but they're really going against your brand new engineered oak floor, that you work so hard to get. I would say there's three tricks: bleach it, paint it, reupholster it.